Hi everyone, Dani here, and welcome to Spenelli Speaks and another Sunday evening with Edward Rutherfurd's London. Now, if you are new here, I am rereading this quite hefty book and doing chapter summaries after each chapter for you to enjoy. So if you're just tuning in, check out the description as there is a playlist there for you to enjoy. Now, if you've come to the end, you have the full playlist. If you've been here for a little bit, you know that we are up to chapter 10 in our reading, which is Hampton Court. So if you haven't already, take some time and hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Like and comment as well. I love to talk about the chapters with you. In real time, this will bring us right into the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And I know I discussed in our last chapter summary the possibility of doing a live discussion at the end. So if we do choose to do that, that would be the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So let me know in the comments if you are interested. These are posting every Sunday up until Thanksgiving, like I mentioned. Now, as we are going along, we are in chapter 10, which is Hampton Court, brings us to the 1500s, 1533 to 1538, which is a little over 100 years past our last chapter. This brings us to the reign of good King Henry, or the pious King Henry as we once knew him. We have a couple people in the mix. As a reader, this chapter was a little boring for me. I think that the fictional characters felt a little bit bland. We didn't see any silver sleeves in this chapter, which I thought I would be happy about because I am probably the worst fan of them. They are loathsome people. But I kind of missed the tension they provide in the chapter. So maybe I am a fan of silver sleeves after all. But we do have a couple of different people. We have a new family tree starting here with the Merediths. We see Susan, Thomas, and Peter. Susan is married to a Bull, so Roland Bull, who becomes a lawyer in the court. And then her two brothers, Thomas Meredith, who is already kind of a person of interest within court. He kind of is influential and works closely with Thomas Cromwell. And then the other brother, Peter, or Father Peter, who is a priest within the Catholic Church. We also meet Daniel Doggett, who is a boatman. He is involved with barges, so he moves people from one side of the Thames to the other. It is mentioned that, we remember he's from that Ducat line, so they kind of created a new family tree, but he also has a little bit of barnacle in him. So they mention a little bit of that Viking blood. He has a bigger build than the traditional Ducats do. And then he's married to Margaret, who is a carpenter. So it's mentioned that the carpenters are here in this chapter. And then his father, old Will Doggett, who is quite a handful in his old age. So those are all of our players. And within this scene, this time frame, we get our historical lesson of what exactly King Henry did in order to get what he ultimately wanted, which was a male heir. If you know history, you know King Henry VIII had all these wives, and the reason for that was to solidify a male heir to continue the Tudor lineage. Now, he was married to Queen Catherine, who was originally his brother's wife. His brother passed. He then married Catherine, and they were unable to conceive a male heir. I believe they were married for over 16 years. It was quite a long time, and they had only conceived Mary. Now, Catherine had a lot of issues with conceiving, a lot of issues with bringing to full term, so that was a very unfortunate situation for her. simply as a woman, I mean, it's a very hard thing, but no male heir. And that brought King Henry to the forefront of what can I do? Because at the time, England was a Catholic state. So in Catholicism, divorce is not an option. No pope in their right mind would have said to the king, yes, sure, go ahead and divorce her, marry someone else. That just wasn't allowed. So, with the help of his advisors and his counselors, he devised a plan to get rid of Catholicism and become a Protestant king. In order to do that, he had to become the superior, ruler of the Church of England, and say, we are now Protestant. That really ruffled a lot of feathers, and all those feathers, they just went to the gallows and got their heads cut off, because if you did not agree with the king, you were beheaded. So we see a lot of that. We see Thomas More, Dr. Wilson. These are real people who disagreed with what he was doing. They immediately went to the tower, rotted there for a while until they were beheaded. Hundreds of men and a few women, as we know, were hanged, were beheaded because they were considered traitors if they did not show their devoutness to the king, that the king was doing what was right. So he would force his people, and especially people in leadership, to complete these oaths to him and say, yes, you are the supreme ruler. Yes, you are you are the righteousness. You are in charge of our religion. You are in charge of our humanity. And if they did not do that, off with their heads, right? We do see that he ultimately is able to become supreme ruler over religion, changes it to being a Protestant state. He's able to divorce Catherine, sends her off to the hills, and marries Anne Boleyn, who does produce a child, but it is a female, Elizabeth, and is not able to produce another heir. So she is also beheaded. That's the way he gets out of that marriage. Basically, he and his advisors, Thomas Cromwell's very much involved with that, make all these things about her, saying she's an adulterer, she's a traitor, she's treasonous, and then beheads her, moves on. We don't see the rest of that in the chapter. We just know that that's the direction it's headed. Historically, we know that Catherine passed away shortly after the divorce. So, I mean, had he waited just a few more years, he could have had Anne all to himself. But ultimately, because Anne couldn't produce the heir, he moved on. He did get a male heir out of Jane Seymour. Unfortunately, Jane Seymour did die a couple days after due to childbirth. Again, we don't see this in the chapter. I'm digressing into history. But he did ultimately get that male heir, but it didn't do him much good, because when he did pass, I believe the male heir, and I want to say, was it Edward or something with an E name, I feel like. Very sickly young man, and I believe he ends up passing, and then through legitimacy issues, they end up giving the throne to Mary, who becomes like Bloody Mary, because then she tries to switch it all back to Catholicism and executes a bunch of Protestants. And then I think she dies, or gets upturned. I think she dies. And it goes to Elizabeth. So all of that trouble, and the line ends up with Anne Boleyn's child anyways. And we get our good virgin Queen Elizabeth. All that said, the fictional side of it, these fictional characters that I mentioned before, they just kind of are in the midst of all of that. So in order to explain everything I just explained, Rutherfurd uses these characters to show the angst of the common people, or the people of leadership positions, and how it was it was a lot of tension because if you didn't agree with the king, you knew you were going to die. If you didn't agree with the king, you knew you were going to lose your place. You could be imprisoned, you could be executed, you could lose your family, you could lose everything. So really, was it a choice that they had? So we see a lot of that turmoil within the Bull family, specifically those Meredith brothers. And there's a little bit of clandestine situations happening to save lives. But I'll leave that to you so we don't get too much spoiled there. But all in all, like, not a very interesting chapter because a lot of it I really already understood. Maybe for you that was different, and I would love to hear about it in the comments, so please feel free to let me know. But that's it. That's the chapter. King Henry trying to get his way, and as we know historically, it didn't really go that way. A lot of people lost their heads, a lot of people lost their positions, their titles, and ultimately I don't think anybody really got what they wanted. But time progresses, and hopefully history does not repeat itself. But that's all we have to say about Chapter 10, Hampton Court. Next week, we will be discussing Chapter 11, which is the Globe. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. Until then, I hope you're reading something fantastic, taking care, staying safe, and as always, you know how it goes. Happy reading. Bye.